this video, we are going to see on how we can integrate or use jQuery in TypeScript applications. The first thing is that we need to have a basic understanding about TypeScript definition files. So what exactly are those? Those are the files which contain just the definitions or probably some kind of descriptions about each and every feature available in a third-party library. So whenever I mention third-party library, it could be jQuery or Lodash or Angular or whatever. So those particular definition files are not really the source files. Those just contain only the definitions. And those definitions might come with some descriptions which might be really helpful for IntelliSense and other tooling supports. And usually those particular TypeScript definition files will have the extension something like .d.js, so which stands for type definition files. And those two available in the form of JavaScript files. What are the main uses of TypeScript definition files? The main important part of a type definition file is compile time safety. Imagine you are not using TypeScript definition file or say no definition file at all. Then whenever you are trying to transpile or compile your TypeScript application, it will not be able to figure out whether your third-party library related functionality is compiled successfully. As we know, the main advantage of TypeScript is we are going to have a compile time safety, which means your application, whenever it is compiled, is going to throw or show all kinds of errors before even being fed out by the browser whenever it is being interpreted. So all the compilation errors will be shown upfront before even trying to deploying it or executing it. So that kind of compile time safety will be lost if we are not really using the definition files. So which means you will be still able to work with any of the third-party libraries directly with TypeScript. However, if you use the definition files, then we can take advantage of compile time safety. That is, it actually shows all the syntactical errors which might happen as part of your development whenever you are using a third-party library. But if you are 100% confident about each of those particular lines you are writing, for which I am not in particular, then you might not really need TypeScript definition at all. But again, on top of that, it is just not only compile time safety, it is also a better tooling support. Whenever I'm mentioning tooling support, it includes IntelliSense. So as you know, IntelliSense is one of the main features available in any kind of IDE. And imagine you do not want to work with jQuery or Lodash or Angular related IntelliSense at all. Then you might not really need again the definition files. But just imagine you are developing a huge library or huge application which involves several of those third-party libraries along with TypeScript. Obviously, you will be most likely leaning towards compile time, safety, along with IntelliSense and so on. So in order to get all of these features and also integrate those libraries with TypeScript in a perfect manner, you would need TypeScript definition files. But that being said, it is not compulsory. So how do we integrate TypeScript and jQuery? As you know, jQuery is a third-party library and TypeScript doesn't even know what exactly is jQuery. So those two are totally independent libraries which would not know about each other. And at the same time, even though we are focusing here on jQuery, it doesn't mean just jQuery. Any of the third-party libraries, including Bootstrap or Angular or Lodash, whatever the third-party library you would like to integrate with TypeScript, chances are that you will be working with either the TypeScript definition file route or with no definition file at all. And in this case, we chose jQuery as the third-party library to integrate, but the same kind of approaches, whatever we are going to discuss now, it could be applied with almost all of the other third-party libraries as long as they support type definitions, which are fully documented as part of TypeScript documentation. Okay, whenever we would like to have jQuery and TypeScript to be integrated, so which means I would like to use jQuery in TypeScript. If that is the case, and if your first choice is using type definitions, if that is your first choice, then you have got two approaches. That is using typings and using @types. So you can use either of these two as of this moment. And this particular typings is really used whenever you have the TypeScript library which is previous to 2.0. So which means if you're working with 1.2, 1.3, 1.5 and so on, then most likely you will be working with typings in order to have any third-party library to be integrated. If you are working with TypeScript 2.0 or above, you will be using @types as because that is the recommended standard from Microsoft eventually. But as part of our video, we are going to discuss both of these approaches. And if you do not want any type definition to be included or to be made available as part of your TypeScript application, which means it is certain that you will be losing the compile time safety and IntelliSense and so on based on the respective editors you use like Sublime or whatever. So if you don't mind using type definitions at all, then you can directly refer your JavaScript file right from HTML. So which means right within HTML, and you can just use those particular libraries just as they are. And what is covered? So as part of this video, we are going to have a new TypeScript application to be created from the scratch. And we are going to start with approach 1, that is how to integrate jQuery or use jQuery as part of TypeScript application using the classic typings. And approach 2, which is much further latest, that is if you are already fine with typings, you can just skip that part and you can jump into @types directly. And approach 3, that is referring jQuery directly as part of your HTML file, and this is going to be straightforward. So we're going to have all of these approaches to be covered as part of this video. Okay, so let me create a new application from the scratch. So in this case, I would like to call my application as test. And right after I create it, I need to initialize it with the npm. So I'm going to start with npm init and provide all the default parameters. So once I'm done, if I open Sublime, so that is my default IDE here, you are going to see my particular package.json which has been created through npm init with all the default parameters whatever I provided. Okay, so the next thing is that I need to install TypeScript, jQuery, typings and so on. So let us start with TypeScript alone. So I would like to have dev-based dependencies to be installed for TypeScript and tsloader. The reason being tsloader is I would like to use Webpack as part of my application here. Okay, so I have TypeScript and tsloader. So if you switch back to package.json, you should be seeing dev-based dependencies for both of those two. And the next thing is that we need to install jQuery. And in order to install jQuery, still I will be working with npm. However, instead of saving it to the dev-based dependencies, I would like to save directly without the dev-based dependencies. So which means I am saying that my application really depends on jQuery because we need to have jQuery to be included as part of the production. So which means whenever we release our application, we need to have jQuery also to be made available as part of that release. However, we do not need the previous TypeScript or tsloader. Those are only for compilation or bundling, but we do not need those two files or so those two packages whenever we are releasing our application. But whenever we are releasing the application, we certainly need jQuery to be included, and thus there is a 100% dependency on the jQuery, but that dependency is not just dev. So I'm going to include this jQuery as a main dependency here. So if you switch back to package.json, you are going to see the dependency is jQuery. So this will be included as part of your release. However, these two are not going to be part of your release as because those will be used only for your compilation, bundling and so on. Okay, so now that you have jQuery, the next thing is that we need to work with typings. This is the approach 1 what we talked about. So again, this will be part of dev-based dependencies. So I would like to install typings. Okay, now you can see I installed typings. However, typings have been installed locally to my application. So if you installed it globally, then you can directly use typing statement, something like this. But in my case, I did not install globally, so I cannot use typings. So if I use typings, it is going to give an error. So in my case, yes, I installed locally. So when I mention locally, that is installed literally inside these node modules and typing. So I need to go through this bin folder in order to access the typings command. So let me go back here and go back to my command prompt, and here I'm going to use that node modules. So that is a folder for which I am asking it to go, node modules, and inside that I have bin, and there I go to typings. So let us quickly observe Sublime. I did not even install this one yet. So I go in here. All I really have is just only package.json and node modules. So now I go back to my command prompt, execute the typings, and while it is trying to execute, nothing but I'm asking it to install all the type definitions for jQuery and a couple of switches so that all the information is really stored globally. When I say globally, it is globally as part of the current application. It's not global to your system though, and it needs to be saved as part of typings.json or something. So let me just press enter, and now you can see like it says jQuery has been installed, and immediately you will be seeing two things here. You have the typings folder, which actually has the globals, so which is exactly what I was talking about earlier. So it is going to have the globals there, and inside that it has got the jQuery, and inside that it has got the type definitions of the jQuery alone. So you can see these are the type definitions. Okay, and on top of that you also have typings.json, which essentially has a reference to whatever the packages you might have downloaded or the type definitions you might have downloaded. So in this case I have jQuery alone. So that is the first thing. So now that we have TypeScript, jQuery, and the typings installed, the next thing is that we need to have the task runner or bundler. So in this case I would like to use Webpack. So for that purpose I try to install Webpack as part of my dev dependency, because I do not need Webpack to be released, so it will be just only used by developer. So I just wanted to install Webpack. Okay, so we have even the Webpack installed. So we need to develop the TypeScript application now, configure tsconfig, and also configure Webpack. So in this case I would like to just create a new folder called tssrc. That is, I just need to have all the TypeScripts to be made available as part of this folder. So you can create your own folder, but this is a general practice of mine where all the TypeScript files I usually put under tssource. So I go in here, create a new file, and I'm going to call this one as message.ts. So all the TypeScript files usually will be ending with ts. So I just create this. And inside that I'm going to write something like this. All I'm doing is just creating a new class, and it is going to have a show button which uses a jQuery item or a jQuery statement here. So it is trying to find a particular element called show button, and I would like to have that particular button to have something like demo. So let us see what's going on here. So let's save this one, and you should see like it is unable to identify jQuery. It doesn't know what is jQuery here, and that's the reason in this case Sublime is unable to identify jQuery. And not only that, the moment I say dollar and press dot, it doesn't know anything about dollar at all. It doesn't know anything about jQuery, no IntelliSense, nothing. And even if I use anything, it doesn't know. And at this moment it doesn't even compile because there is an error right here, and we are going to fix that. And just like message.cs, I would like to create another file called app.ts. So that is going to be my beginning point for my application. And here I would like to use my message class, and you can also see I'm trying to use jQuery right here. And at the same time, as part of this, I am writing my own jQuery related script. That is, during the document load, I would like to hook up a particular function. So there is an event handler for the click event of a particular button. And if I click that button, I would like to say, okay, create an instance of that message class, and then call a method called wo.show. So this is the method show which is available here, and I'm trying to execute this. So in order to have this one to be executed, again, we need jQuery reference. So we are saying that whenever it finds jQuery, that definition has to be placed inside $symbol, and I'm using the same $symbol here. Even in this case for message.ts, I'm saying that all the definitions of jQuery needs to be made available as part of $, and I'm using the same $here. So this is pretty much what I have for the TypeScripts, but as I mentioned, we still need to configure this. So I need to create TypeScript config. So that is going to be tsconfig.json, and this is the file which actually helps the TypeScript compiler to check on all the options on how to compile our application. So in this case, I'm going to say, please include all the source maps for my debugging, and at the same time, please start at this one for compilation, that is my app.ts, and at the same time, I'm saying that please honor all the definitions or the TypeScript definitions available in this index.d.ts. So if you open typescripts here, you are going to see index.ts. So you can see it includes each of those particular TypeScript related definitions, and all of those definitions are going to be available here, which is exactly you're trying to refer from here. So all of this information, so which means even this gets compiled and even this gets compiled too. So whenever it's a compile, it is actually transpilation. Okay, so that is pretty much about tsconfig. Similarly, I need to create a new file exclusively for my bundling, that is for Webpack. So for that purpose, I'm going to create another file, and I'm going to call this one as webpack.config.js. And this is the script I'm going to use in order to compile and make all of my application to be available in a much better fashion. So that is, I'm saying that first of all, include all the source maps for debugging. This is my entry point of my application, and once the transpilation of TypeScript files has been done, and once the compilation along with the bundling and everything is done, please place all the output into this path that is built. So once it bundled all of our scripts, it has to place all the scripts into one file called app.js, and that too inside this path. And this is what it says: whenever it finds TypeScript files, just compile using TS loader. So that is the TypeScript loader, which automatically gets kicked in whenever any kind of TypeScript file has been figured out, and it tries to compile it and bundles it and places it here. So this is pretty much about Webpack in general. So I just wanted to save all of these. So looks like we are done. We have the TS config, we have Webpack config, we have typings, we have TypeScripts. So it looks like we are done. So let us go back to our prompt here, and let me try to compile whatever we have in place. Modules.bin webpack. So as I installed Webpack locally, this is the way I'm going to execute. If you install it globally, you do not need this whole path, but just execute with the statement Webpack. So let me try to execute this. Okay, it looks like it did it, and immediately you'll be able to see the build. And if you open the build, you are going to see app.js along with the source maps for debugging. Once you actually open app.js, you are going to see this huge file which is actually having literally thousands of lines. Why do we have thousands of lines? Actually, in my application, I really wrote only those two files, app.ts and message.ts, which have just little over 10 or 20 lines. But if you see app.js, it has got tons of lines. Because if you try to find jQuery here, you are going to see jQuery is also included and bundled together into one file called app.js. So this huge app.js contains the compiled version of app.ts, the compiled version of message.ts, and at the same time even the jQuery as well. So all of these three mixed together into one huge file called app.js, and we only need this file for our HTML to actually refer and just go with the respective calling or execution of our particular application. So let us create a new index.html. So in this case, I am going to call index.html, and as part of this, all I have to say is HTML and use a script, and I need to refer this app.js whatever we have in place. So I am going to say something like source build app.js. So this is the file I am including. So I do not include any other file. No jQuery, no TypeScript, just only app.js, which contains everything. And inside this body, I would like to have a button to be created, because if you go through our message.ts, I'm actually trying to figure out the button here with this name show button. And not only that, even in app.js, I'm using the button, and on click of that, it has to do something. So let me create a button for that one. So I'm going to say button, and I would like to provide the ID with exactly the same ID I mentioned earlier, and I would like to say show. Okay. So this is a very simple HTML, and the moment I click on this button show, it has to immediately create an instance of our message class and call show method. So once I have this one, I should be immediately see some kind of alert, and at the same time modifying the HTML as well. So let us see if we can accomplish all of this together. So prior to that, I need to execute, or say I need to expose my application through web server. You can use Node HTTP server or your own favorite web server, but in my case I just wanted to use IIS Express. So I just run IIS Express here and go to my web browser, and I'm going to say index.html, and now you can see I have the show button. So let me open the developer tools as well, so that we will have some understanding on how the debugging and everything is being taken care. So the moment I click on show, you can see I have hello world, and you can also see that particular button has been renamed from show to demo. So let me open this again. So I click show. So after the alert, you can see this has been changed to demo. Okay, if you'd like to debug this, yes, it is possible, because we exposed the source map files, and thus if you go through the webpack here, you are going to see your TypeScript files. So in our case, I can just click on app.ts, and probably I would like to have a breakpoint here, and in the message.ts I would like to have a breakpoint here. Now let me click on demo, and you should be able to see upon click it is actually stopping here right inside the TypeScript file, and once I continue, you can see it is really stopping at the next level. So in that way we are able to have some kind of jQuery integration in our TypeScript, and that too using typings. So let me close all of this stuff, and let me clear this, and let us modify this. Okay, one thing, we still need to worry about these tools. So right now it is still unable to understand here. So let me close this Sublime text and again open Sublime. And let me open TSRs, app.ts, and let me try to write something, $, and I open, and now you can see it is able to understand or provide some kind of intelligence for me. And not only that, if I do some kind of selector, and the moment I open it, you can see it is giving me all the jQuery related syntaxes here, and that had been made possible as because we are using TypeScript definitions. Whether using typings or @types, still as long as those type definitions are available, it will be automatically giving us the intelligence, and not just the intelligence, but also any kind of errors you might be running into. For example, let us consider I am saying instead of on, I am going to say something like XXX or something. So let us see if this is going to. So right now you are already having an error here, but let us see from the compilation perspective. So I try to compile it again, and now you can see it says this particular on XXX is not available in jQuery, and you are having this error directly as part of your compilation. So which means you are not testing yet in your browser. It is being automatically it is automatically raising a red flag right during the compilation itself. So that is going to be a huge benefit for developers, especially if all the errors are being figured out before even going to execute our particular application. So that is one of the favorite features of the type definitions. Anyway, I have shown this intelligence and compile time safety. So now that we have some understanding about typings, the next approach, as I mentioned, is using just the types. So let us clear some part, as because we do not need typings. So let us clear all the things which are unnecessary. So which means I would like to use types. So for the types, I do not need typings. Why? Because typings is old school. When I say old school, when you are using TypeScript version, any version of TypeScript before 2.0, then only you would know typings. You would need typings. So in my case, I'm using TypeScript 2. something, and I do not really need to work with typings, but @type should be good enough. So for that purpose, I'm going to delete this. That is, I do not need typings. I do not need typings.json. So let me clear the build as well. So let me remove the build. Let me remove the node modules as well, so that we will reinstall all the node modules. So we cleared everything. So let me go to package.json. We do not need the typings. So let me get rid of these typings. So now we have TS loader, which is necessary for our webpack, TypeScript, which is also necessary. So we removed the build folder, we removed node modules and all the typings related stuff. So now let us first get back all the node related packages. So if you see here, I removed node modules. So in order to reinstall all the node modules based on package.json, so which means we are going to see only these three and jQuery. Only those four need to be available in our node modules folder. So I go back here. So I'm going to say npm install. Okay, so let me clear everything and let us go back to our Sublime text and open app.ts, and you can see it is still unable to figure out what exactly is jQuery here, because we did not install @types. No @types, no typings, and it doesn't know any definition of jQuery, and thus it is showing that error. And at this moment, even if you compile it, it is not going to compile. So let us try to compile it. So this is my compilation command. So let me try to compile. And now, okay, I need to remove this typings from tsconfig as well. So we do not need this one. So let me get rid of this guy, because we removed typings as well. So let me compile this. And still it is showing the error because it doesn't know what is jQuery. Obviously it doesn't know, because there is no type definition available, and TypeScript could not understand this command, that is this statement. So the TypeScript doesn't really know from where it needs to include jQuery. That was the error what we are seeing from here. So in order to have that error to be completely vanished, so which means we need to have type definitions to be included, and for that purpose we install @types, and that too we need only for dev dependencies, only during the compilation. So this is the command to actually install all the type definitions for jQuery, and this command is valid if and only if you are using TypeScript version 2.0 and above. Okay, I just installed it, nothing much. So if you go back to package.json, you are going to see these types. That's all. And now let us try to recompile it using Webpack. And see, it has got app.js automatically compiled. A new build folder has been created, and if you open app.js, still it has got thousands of lines, as because it included jQuery right there. And we do not need to configure any typings or index.d.ts or whatever. So they made it pretty simple and straightforward to work with type definitions from TypeScript 2.0 and above onwards. So let me clear everything. And if you see the node modules, you are going to see typings right here. That is the one I was talking about. Okay, so let us think about the IntelliSense now. So I go back to app.ts, and you can see the IntelliSense looks like it is back. It is able to understand. So let us type in something like $ of something, and you can see the IntelliSense is back here. And if I write to say something like this, you can see it is still made available. And now as it is being compiled successfully, so let me compile it with no, so that no issues are made available. So my web server is running, so let us test it once again. And let me open my developer tools and make sure that we still have all the debugging options working fine with no issues. So I click on show, and you can see it still stopped at my debugging point whatever I put earlier, and similarly it stopped here as well, and we are really debugging right inside the TypeScript. And that is how we can have the types to be working as part of your TypeScript application. Again, both of the approaches, like the typings or types, are to be working with type definitions, but there is one more way of doing or integrating jQuery into your TypeScript, that is with no type definitions at all. So which means you would like to directly use jQuery in your HTML file. However, you still need to work with jQuery in your TypeScript coding as well. So how do we do that? So let us clear all the stuff which is unnecessary. So let me clear this, and one by one. So let me go to package.json. I just wanted to get rid of types here, and as I mentioned, we are going to refer jQuery directly as part of HTML, so we do not need even this one. So even the jQuery is lost from our package.json. All we really need is plain TypeScript and others related to bundling. Only TypeScript and bundler related packages are necessary here. We do not need any third-party libraries to be installed here, as because we are not going to bundle those. So that's pretty much about package.json. So let me get rid of that. And next is, let us clear this build folder. I do not want this, so that we are going to generate a new one from the scratch. Let me delete even the node modules as well, so that we'll have a fresh copy of node modules. And now let me create npm, let me have all the node modules to be downloaded. Okay, so let me clear it, and if you go to node modules, you are going to see only TypeScript, Webpack and TS Loader. No jQuery, no typings, and no @types, just only those three. So once you are done, we need to fix our TypeScripts. So let us go back to app.ts, and you can see it doesn't understand jQuery, obviously. And if you try to compile now, let me try to compile. So I have this command webpack, and whenever we are trying to compile, it says there's nothing called jQuery which it could really understand. On top of that, it doesn't know where that module exists, and there are several errors just because of jQuery. And in order to fix that, there is one important thing we need to worry about. So that is, first of all, I remove the reference to jQuery. Yes, because we are not including jQuery module at all. But once we remove that, it doesn't know what is $, because TypeScript doesn't understand this symbol $, which is just a variable as part of our jQuery, or say function of our jQuery. So now if I remove this, as it doesn't understand $ symbol, it might come up with different error saying that it doesn't know what is $. And what we are going to say here is, treat this $ symbol as just any kind of variable or any object. So that is the easiest way we can say, like declare variable $, which could be of any type. So that is a TypeScript valid statement. So I'm saying that please treat $ as a variable of some type. Even TypeScript doesn't know what kind of type it is, but it will figure out at runtime on what type it is and try to execute all of the rest of the statements once $, has been figured out. So this $ could have been even instantiated or referred earlier or created earlier, but TypeScript will not worry about anything. It says that we are using $. It might have been created by something else, but we are just referring $ as part of my TypeScript. So do not worry about this $, symbol. That's what you are going to say to TypeScript. So the TypeScript compiler now thinks that, oh, he is using $, but I don't need to care about what is $, because it might be used by some other library, or it might have been created by something else. So I do not need to worry about this dollar anymore, so I just skip it. So that's what it is going to say. And now I'm going to do the same thing even for message.ts. So I'm going to remove this and let me compile this. And now you can see it has compiled successfully. But what did we lose? We are not going to have any kind of IntelliSense or even the compile time safety. So now if I write something like dollar of something dot, no IntelliSense, nothing. And on top of that, even if you write on XXX or something, and if you try to compile it, it compiles with no issues, because it doesn't know anything about jQuery. It just thinks, okay, there is something called dollar, I don't care what it is. So that is how you are actually losing not just IntelliSense but also the compile time safety. So that is pretty important. Anyway, as we are not going to worry about TypeScript definitions here, we think that our particular jQuery statements or all of my jQuery code or functionality, whatever I put in as part of TypeScript, is 100% perfect. That is my assumption. So in order to make it work, there is one more thing we need to modify. In index.html, I need to refer jQuery right here. So in order to refer to jQuery, the easiest way, go to any CDN for the jQuery alone and get any of the jQuery things available. So in this case, I just wanted to use this guy. You can use any of your CDNs available. So just, okay, not this. So copy the script tag. So just wanted to copy the script tag and place it here. That's it. So let us see if everything is working fine. So we have already compiled with no issues. So let us make sure that we compiled it. Yes, compiled successfully. And very important thing, if you go to build folder and open app.js, there are no thousands of lines here, because we are just including only app.ts and message.ts. There is no jQuery available as part of this bundle, app.js. So app.js does not include jQuery at all. It includes only our TypeScript related transpiled information like the show button click and the alert and so on. There is no jQuery anywhere here because we are not bundling it and we are not really including it as part of our TypeScript application. However, you are including the jQuery right inside your HTML, and it is the browser's part or browser's responsibility to download this jQuery first and then link that jQuery with our app.js. So once you include jQuery and once browser interprets jQuery, it knows what is the dollar, and the same dollar is going to be used in our app.js, and TypeScript will still not understand what is dollar, but it will try to interpret the dollar which has been already defined as part of this jQuery.main.js. So if everything is working fine, we should be able to still have the same application running with no issues. Now I click on show and you can see it is still working with no issues, and it still stops there and there are no issues. And if you see here, like if you open the webpack, you have only these two, and if you open app.ts, this is nothing but what we are currently debugging into, and that particular jQuery is actually coming from the CDN, so this is being included. So in that way we have seen all the three different approaches on how to include jQuery and work with jQuery as part of your TypeScript applications.